Hello, my friends. This is it's November 8th, and just after midnight local time. Continuing my load. We'll be finishing my delivery this morning to Tollleson, Arizona, with a load that's due at 5 a.m. 220 miles from there, somewhere in that ballpark. So shouldn't have any problem getting it there on time from here at this point. I also got a pre-plan for another load picking up there also in Tollleson and going to Quincy, Florida, which is not too far west of Tallahassee. For those of you not familiar with Florida, Tallahassee is up in the Panhandle, somewhat central Panhandle, I'd call it. Not too far, not incredibly far away from where I-10 and I-75 meet up. It's west of there though. But I'll be interested in seeing how things go with that load, because the anticipated delivery date on that one is November 12th, which normally I'd be able to cover, but due to insufficient hours or recaps to work with, at least I don't think I'll be able to cover it on time, because I have 2 days in the next 4 that only have like 6:45 in recaps. I mean, I might be wrong, but it looks to me like I won't be able to deliver that any earlier than the 14th. But I went ahead and accepted it, and with the caveat that, hey, I probably won't be able to make on time. I mean, well, it's not, they don't have an appointment scheduled for it yet, but the the expected delivery date is sometime the 12th. So, not sure what'll happen with that one, whether they'll end up just having me pick it up and then swap it out along the way, or maybe cancel it and give it to someone else and give me something I can get on time. But I don't know. It is maybe the load just needs to be covered, and I can at least get it moving pretty good distance today. As I have just over 10 hours to work with today on my clock, so a pretty decent day. I got right at 10 hours left on my clock right at the moment. This guy doesn't have a stop sign, so I'm gonna wait for him. Come on, Brian. First part of the day will be going west on I-40 to Flagstaff, and then south on I-17 into the Phoenix area. I'll probably take Loop 101, I would imagine, once I get into the Phoenix area. Loop 101 is basically like an inner bypass loop, basically where it goes around the downtown area, generally west and south, or it basically takes the northwest loop around the area. There's an outer loop called Loop 303 also, but Tollleson is closer to the 101, so I'll probably get on 101 and take it across. I take it down to I-10 and That'll put me right in the general area of where I need to be. I actually am leaving a little bit early compared to when I need to be there. The receiver on this one is Costco. They have, most Costco's are typically they have a 15-minute window. So, in other words, they don't let you check in until you're within 15 minutes of your delivery time. To be honest with you, I think Costco runs a really nice, tight ship as far as how their process works. Now, all the Costco DCs I've been to, and they all work this way, where you can't check in any sooner than 15 minutes before your check-in time or your appointment time, whatever. And when when you do check in, everything you do is there in the guard shack. You give your bills to them. They'll usually give you a beeper with a pager unit, whatever. And also usually assign you a dock door right off the bat. Go to your dock door and just back into it and wait. And once you're done, once they're done unloading you and everything's good to go or whatever, your pager will go off and they'll tell you when they'll tell you to actually go to exit. And all you have to do is just go right back to the guard shack and on the way back and get your bills on the way back out. It's that simple. And generally, I don't tend to get kept there very long either. Most of the times that I've been there, I think I've only once ever been to this particular Costco DC, but other Costco DCs, they normally don't take me that long. So maybe a couple hours at most, but there have been plenty of other cases where I've been there less than an hour. I really wouldn't mind seeing Walmart do something that's doing what they do, because I tell you what, Costco, they don't mess around when it comes to getting their loads done or in an efficient way. I don't know. Walmart, though, several of them are, Walmart's been more notorious for being a lot more, let's just say, take their time. Typical delivery or pickup at Walmart at DC usually takes at least 3 hours, if not longer. And in the case of what we call WCC, or the Walmart DC in Colton, California, first one is if you're there to pick up load. First problem is good luck if your load's even there at all, or if you can even grab your load. Because a lot of times loads get canceled due to lack of product. And you usually won't find that out until you're already there checking in for your pickup. Oh yeah, your load's been canceled. Or you end up having to wait for several hours. Maybe they have a piece of your load might be coming in that day on another truck, and maybe they have to unload it off the other truck first, and basically wait for that truck to show up that day before they can put it in your trailer. So those are common problems over there, but Walmart DCs in general, they all tend to be definitely on the slow side. The only one I've really had a good experience with is the one in Arcadia, Florida, because they have this what you call a fax and pull process. And I made a delivery there, and I think within an hour of that, when I actually checked in, I was already done. This fax and pull process they're doing there, you turn in your bills, and then you don't when they're getting through unloading you, they'll basically tell you, come on up to the window, or to the what you call a central receiving office, or CRO, or Central Transportation Office, CTO, and bills. Basically, they tell you to come get your bills. Now, what they do is they don't actually inventory the bills just right then and there, but basically they pull the product to make sure it meets quality requirements and all that, and then once all that's hunky-dory and all that, then they'll go and give you a copy of the bills with a note on it saying that it's fax and pull. And once they're done with their inventory, they'll sign for it. If there are any overages or shortages, whatever, they'll document it on there, and then they'll just fax it to the carrier, and then the carrier will handle it from there. So I don't know if that's a pilot program that Walmart is doing, and it's just at certain DCs like the one in Arcadia, or if it's just that particular DC doing it, or what. But yeah, if they can do it all, like Walmart can do all their loads the way the one in Arcadia, Florida does, that would be great if you ask me. But I don't know, I'll call it wishful thinking until I actually see it happen. We just passed Joseph City. We're at the 276 mile marker, and I-17 I believe is 195 or so, if I remember right. So it's right around 80 miles from here. We'll be getting on I-17, and it's south on 17. This time of night, I definitely want to be, definitely have a concern with having encounters with not only deer but also elk. And speaking of elk, when I was in the Walmart fleet, I had an occasion where I was coming up by 17 from Phoenix. I think I had delivered either down there in Phoenix or, well, usually. I think it was Prescott Valley. Yeah, there used to be a Sam's Club in Prescott Valley. It closed down last year though when I was in that fleet. But if I remember, I made a delivery there first, and then the rest of my load was going to the Flagstaff store, Sam's Club. On my way up to Flagstaff, I was about 20 miles south of there. Coming up around early in the, like late at night, kind of like around this time of night, and in front of me, a few hundred feet in front of me, I see something standing right in the middle of the number one lane, and it was facing to the right, like if it was going to move, it was going to move straight across into my path. But it was just kind of standing there. I'm like, man, that sucker's huge for a deer. That can't be a deer. So, yeah, I had to think, maybe it's an elk, but I can't tell. It's like, that thing is massive. It's like, I didn't know elk could get that big. Originally, first I thought, like, man, that can't be a moose, because it's about as big as a moose, but they don't have moose in Arizona that I know of. That's too far south. Moose habitat is, I don't think it goes further south than maybe, like, Wyoming, or like northern Wyoming, or somewhere in that neck of the woods. But now when I got about within a couple hundred feet of it, when it realizes I'm coming, it ended up turning around and running back into the median, thankfully. But that thing was huge. Yeah, and it did turn out it was a big, huge bull elk. There's another route to Phoenix that people can take, which actually starts right there in Holbrook, where I just left from. Mainly state highways, you can take that down more, but it's a more direct route. It's about, I want to say, 60 miles less, but it's a lot more hilly, and you'll get slowed down quite a bit. Plus, at this time of night, you'll definitely have a greater risk of having encounters with elk and other wildlife than if you stay on the interstate. I don't normally go that way, so especially since I'm going to Tollleson, which is on the west side of Phoenix, I have less reason to want to use that side. People have made it to I-17 in Flagstaff. And it'd be a 130, 140 mile run from here down to Phoenix. Now, I did realize after I started driving that I made a mistake on my pre-plan info that I sent earlier for the load going to Florida. I mistakenly believed that I couldn't get in there until the 14th because of hours of service, but in reality, I was comparing my hours of service available to the trip hours needed instead of to my HOS needed. So, which made sense because it should have only taken. Man, I can run 500 mile shifts and per day and still get it there on the 11th. So I don't see myself having any problems making that delivery on time. I'm getting enough hours back every night where I can at least get in there on the 12th. I might need the 12th hours to get in there, but if I had all my hours available, I'd be able to get it down to 11. Right? Anyway, it's I don't think I won't have any problems getting that there all the way to Florida. After that, I'll be asking to see if I can get something back toward California since I didn't get to my meds. There's probably stop at the rest area about halfway down to Phoenix, and just so I can burn off a little bit of time and send that notification in that I made a mistake on that other pre-planned transmission. It's got a 6% downhill grade right now. I'm currently in 8th gear. So far it's holding me at 50 miles an hour, but I'm not on the steep part. I'll probably need to use one of the braking techniques to maintain my speed. And as I expected, I'm up to 52 right now. Once my RPM gets up around 1900 or so, I usually will back it off about 5 miles an hour. A couple different ways that you can use braking techniques, with your surface brakes. There's one called a steady braking technique or snub braking, where you apply constant pressure all the way down the hill, constant light pressure. That's the more old school way to do it. There's also another method, depending on where you learn it from, whatever. They might have different terminologies for it or nomenclatures for it, but generally I'd call it stab braking in a way. Where it is every basically work within a 5-mile-an-hour window. So when you get to the top of the window, start stab braking down to the bottom of the window. And make sure you spend at least about 3 seconds getting to that speed. So let's say I want to work in a 50 to 55 mile an hour window. When it gets to 55, I'll apply the brakes. But I want to be able to, I want to make it take at least 3 seconds to get down to 50 miles an hour. And then when I get down to 50, I'll release the brakes and let my compression brakes handle it from there. So I'm at 55 now, which happens to be right at 1900 RPM. Snub braking down, or stab braking down, whatever, down to 50. Now it should be good. I'm starting to flatten out here, so. But I'm going to go ahead and stay in this gear though, because there's another downhill coming up here in a second. Shift trucks with more gears in them, I tended to not use the service brakes at all. I tended to just be in whatever gear could handle whatever the grade and load is. Yeah, plus auto shift trucks have more gears. At least the ones that I drove had have 12-speed transmissions, which most of them are going to have. So I mean, there are more options, there are more gear options, more gear ratio options as a result. And also with the auto shifts, at least with the Freightliners, I could set the speed, I could basically set my cruise speed at a certain speed, and the truck would try to keep me within about 4 or 5 miles an hour of that set speed on either end. So basically, let's just say I was setting, I don't know, 45. Then it would try to keep me within, like when I'm coming down the hill, it would apply the jake brakes, like the third stage jake brakes around 49. And it would always try to keep me within about a mile an hour of that range coming down the hill. And then when it flattened out, it'd get me back to 45. So it was a really nice feature on it, to be honest with you. As much as I hate auto shift, that was a nice thing about that truck. Driving trucks with that transmission is the fact that it would automatically keep fluctuating between being in second stage jake and third stage jake, and keep my speed constant all the way down the hill. It's not so easy to do that with the manual transmission truck like this one. So that's why more of the old school drivers, who are not used to driving auto shift, they're more used to having to manually actually control the truck in every aspect. But of course, that's part of driving a manual transmission is it's the experience of actually being connected with the truck and actually having to have a more active role in managing what the truck is doing. And that's part of why I went back. One of the reasons why I ended up leaving CR England is because I got tired of auto shift, and I wanted to go back to manual. And JCT actually has been a combination of manual and auto shift trucks available, and of course a lot of good things I heard about the company. And of course, can't go wrong when they get a manual transmission vehicle, and can also get my choice of what color or even what brand of truck I get. Alright, 5% grade, I can handle 9. So every time the gradient goes down one, I can probably go up one on the gear. So if I can handle, if I can mostly handle a 6% grade in 8th gear, then I should be able to handle a 5% grade in 9th. mirrors should have at least similar performance characteristics as far as the Jake brakes are concerned. I can get my speed back up a little bit more, but I want to let this guy get more in front of me and back over first before I start doing that. I don't want to be an asshole and leave him hanging out there in the fast lane. Give him an opportunity to get back over, and then I can build my speed back to where it could be at. 75-mile-an-hour limit here, so I don't have to be doing 60 if my truck's easily holding it anyway. Grade, so I'm going to slow down and get myself to get back into 8th gear now because of this. So I'm using the service brakes to get down into the RPM range I want to be in to shift gears more easily. And now I'm not. Now I got the Jake brakes back on. There's an important thing to know. Now, a lot of when you're doing the mirror checks, don't just look in your left mirror because, well, that's the only place traffic can be coming from. That's not the only reason you look in your mirrors, especially when you're in mountain areas. I have been passed by people on the right shoulder before, for one, and two. But it doesn't matter if you're in mountainous areas or even on flat areas. There are times where you can find out you have a brake that's out of adjustment and might be overheating. And which is, overheated brakes are far more likely in a mountain, in a downhill grade environment like this. And you really should be watching both mirrors regularly to make sure you're not smoking your brakes. If you do start smoking the brakes, it's time to get off the road and let them cool down. You don't want to be having to use runaway truck ramp. You don't want to have your brakes catch fire and have your whole trailer and even your truck catch fire possibly. Just not a good risk to take. I had one occasion within the last, say, 6 months. Definitely since I've been with JCT, where I was going down Donner Pass, which is basically I-80 between Nevada and Sacramento. I was on the downhill side of that, or not quite there. Anyway, I stopped at the brake check area, which is a mandatory brake check area there. You're actually required by law to stop there if you're in a truck and check your brakes. Well, I stopped. I'm about ready to stop there, and I hear what turns out to be a hotshot driver trying to tell another trucker in the area that, hey, your brakes are smoking, and he'd been trying to get a hold of him for a good 15 miles. Thankfully, the trucker didn't have a radio on him, so he had no idea, and the trucker wasn't paying any attention to his mirrors at all. He had no idea that his brakes were smoking. know, he probably would have known that if he would have been looking in his mirrors, but for 15 miles and you have no idea your brakes are smoking tells me you're not paying attention to your mirrors. And there was, that whole situation was bad. The driver, I think it was from, I want to say Utah or Idaho, whatever it was, and I guess he's not even a regular driver. I guess he only, I guess covers for his dad or something when his dad has something going on or whatever, I forget, but he's not a full-time driver, basically, is what it came down to. And he's driving a truck that has basically unserviceable jake brakes. It did have jake brakes, but they weren't working properly. So he was using his service brakes a lot more and wasn't bothering the least bit to look at his mirrors, evidently. Now, thankfully, he stopped at the mandatory brake check area, and the hotshot driver pulled in behind him and came out with his fire extinguisher. And because I heard everything on the air and I knew who it was, I also got out of my truck, grabbed my fire extinguisher, went over there just in case to kind of help. And we ended up telling the guy, basically, the other guy ended up, the hotshot driver ended up telling the other trucker, hey man, I've been trying to get a hold of you on the radio for 15 miles now. And of course, the guy just didn't know. That's one of the downfalls of not having a CB on you. Sometimes your fellow truckers can actually warn you about problems. But anyway, we get over there. We walk up to him, and we ended up telling him, you should just because basically his tractor drive tire brakes were the ones that were hot. So we ended up telling him you should disconnect from your trailer. That way, if your truck brakes do catch fire, you won't catch your trailer and your load on fire also. Because commercial vehicle only, right lane only, this is basically the rest area coming up. They use the rest area as a bit of a way station also, but not really at this hour. Usually during the daytime. Arizona way stations tend to be this way. Even the one on I-10 in between Phoenix and Tucson, it's the same way. You go into a rest area and it's kind of like an ad hoc way station. Anyway, though, this guy, now it was mainly his right side tractor brakes, the drive tires specifically. Now, if he'd been looking in his right side mirror, he would have known that. But because he evidently wasn't looking in his, at least not his right side mirrors, probably not either, and neither of his mirrors, whatever, none of them, he had no idea about this. And now something we did tell him too is, when he did disconnect from the trailer, we told him, don't set your tractor brakes. And thankfully the hotshot driver had a couple of 4x4s on him that we were able to use as a wheel, basically as wheel chocks for him. And the reason why we told him don't apply your tractor brakes is because if you do apply them and they're hot, basically your brakes they get to the point where they melt. They get to a melting point and they can also catch fire, but if they get to a melting point or near a melting point, what happens is your brake pads can end up fusing to your brake lining or the drum or rotor, whichever the case may be. Of course, most trucks and trailers have drum brakes. He had an older model truck, so it was definitely drum brakes on that one. But anyway, if you set your brakes, basically you can melt one of the metals there to a point where it fuses to the other metal, and once that happens, you're never going to move that wheel again. You're going to have to take the tire off and basically change out your whole brake system on that particular axle, whichever is affected. So, you know, we let them know that. That way, if you're, you know, if you melt them, whatever, at least you can, you know, let them cool off while they're, you know, at least, you know, let them get back to their solid point after the, you know, by cooling off, whatever, and not be in contact with the other part of the brake system. And then once they cool back down, then the risk of fire also goes down. Then, all right, go ahead and, you know, you can drive again. But now, something I did tell them myself, and this was something that I learned from aircraft maintenance, because we did have issues with hot brakes on aircraft. You know, remember, aircraft might, are going to land at over 100 miles an hour. In fact, a lot of them are going to land at like 120 knots, or even, you know, sometimes even higher. And 1 knot is 1.15 miles an hour. So basically, every 100 miles and 100 knots is 115 miles an hour. In other words, so let's say even like 120 knots, and we're talking upward around of 140 miles an hour. And aircraft wheels and tires and brakes are usually rated for just under 200 miles an hour. So, and they get heavy braking applications, and they can also get very hot and have these same problems. And so anyway, one of the things I learned from aircraft maintenance is, you know, it's the same situation here with, don't set the brakes if you do have a hot brake situation. Let them cool off. Now the other part is, usually the brakes are going to be at their hottest point about 20 minutes, about I think 10 or 20 minutes after you've already finished using the brakes. So like an aircraft, they're going to be at their hottest point 10 to 20 minutes after the plane's already landed. Yeah, so that's your greatest risk of a fire, brake fire. But now apply the same principle to trucks. You know, when you heat up the brakes, you might have the same problem there. So it's best to wait at least a good 30 minutes for the brakes to cool down, and before you even think about resetting the brakes or driving again. Also, if you do have a hot brake situation, stay away from the side of the tire. Basically, don't face right at where the rim is, or we call them wheels on aircraft, but on trucks, trucking, most people call them rims. But you don't want to be on the side of the tire that the rim is facing out front, because now there's only one major danger here with truck tires, but there are two dangers of doing this on an aircraft. Now truck tires, the rims are there's one piece. So the one major danger that you run into if you're on the side of the tire when it's hot like that is, with heat comes more pressure as well. So the hotter the tire gets, the more the pressure builds up inside the tire, and between the heat and the pressure, the tire can basically explode. Not explode with a fire, but just basically the side of the tire can fail to the point where the air that's inside the tire explosively comes out of the sidewall portion of the tire right at you. And people have been killed by doing this, by the way. Now, on an aircraft, you have a double risk of with these tires. Okay, most aircraft, they have split half wheels. So basically, on an aircraft, when you put a tire on a wheel, you take the inner half where the brake is first, and basically you put it all on either side, actually, depending on what kind of equipment is used to mount the tire. But generally, you put one wheel half on one side of the tire, and then the other wheel half on the other side of the tire, and you squeeze the two halves into each other with basically a clamp. And then once they're clamped together, the tie bolts, which anywhere between 12 and 18 typically, bolts, you run them through and torque them all down while it's clamped down. Now, aircraft tires, they can do that. You can have the same problem as far as pressure, basically explosive depressurization from the tire, but also with the heat, the attaching hardware that for the wheels and the wheel halves themselves, or basically the wheel assembly, the attaching hardware there can also fail to the point where the outer half of the tire of the wheel itself can become a projectile and go flying even a few hundred feet. You don't want to be anywhere near that thing if that happens, and it has been known to happen in hot brakes events. So I don't think that's really so much going to happen with a truck tire, because the rims are only one piece, but you still have the percussion from the air pressure that's inside the tire. That can still kill you. So best practice when you're either when you're servicing or if you're dealing with a hot brake situation on a truck or an aircraft, always stay either forward or aft, aft means to the rear. Always stay forward or aft of the tire, basically where the only thing you can see is the tread area. Now that's the safest place to be if anything does go wrong with the tire. So anyway, going back to this situation though, I told this guy, hey, maybe you should sit here for at least half an hour and get these brakes checked out. I didn't let the brakes cool down. And then I told him, if your Jake brakes aren't going to work right, then you should be going down this hill the old school way, which is very slowly. Because when it comes to brakes, basically coming down the hill with the truck, the higher your speed is, the more brake energy. The less brake energy you're going to have, basically there's a contrast between brake efficiency, or how effectively the brakes are going to work, and how much heat is generated. Okay, so when you're in a truck, the higher the speed is you're going, the more rapidly it's going to build up heat, and the less effectively the brakes are going to work. When you get down a lower speed, the brakes are going to be much more effective, and then the heat generation will be less. So this is another reason why when you're coming down hills in a truck, you should be careful not to go too fast. Err on the side of safety and go down the hill slower. If it means not overheating your brakes and not having to risk using a runaway truck ramp and getting yourself or someone else killed, or taking something else out, whatever. All of these these are all risks that are not necessary to take. It's not going to kill you to take a few extra minutes to get down that hill. But anyway, so applying that braking principle, where lower speed means less heat. Now, this is the old school way that truckers do. With many more years of experience than I do, they'll tell you this is how they used to run when trucks didn't even have Jake brakes back in the day. They would run a much slower speed, and they would just use usually the snub braking technique, where they just steady, easy brake just enough to keep their speed consistent all the way. That was the normal way of going down a mountain. So I basically told the guy to do this after your brakes cool off, and then get your damn Jake brakes fixed, and also importantly, pay attention to your damn mirrors. Because Because I wouldn't have been in that position in the first place if you had been paying attention to them. So anyway, that's it for that story there. I ended up passing up the rest area intentionally because I'm thinking I'd rather just go ahead and get all the way to probably the Flying J in Tollleson. I can camp out there, even if there are no spots available there. I can always just, maybe, much I hate to do it, sit in the fuel island, but but stay in the driver's seat and be in a position where I can move the truck right away if I need to. Because I will be early there, most likely. The time I left, I should be in Tollleson around 3:30, I would imagine. It's 2:23 right now. Let's see how many miles I've driven. I've driven 136, so maybe it'll be between 3:30 and 4, it sounds like, because I'm expecting it to be about 210 to 220 in that ballpark on the miles to get to Tollleson. So it puts me about 75 to 85 miles out. So it'll definitely take more than an hour, but it should, theoretically take me less than an hour and a half. The hills here are going to be a consideration with that too. So yeah, I would say probably 3:45ish, maybe. I would say ballpark at 3:45 a.m. when I get there. So if there aren't any spots open at the Flying J by the time I get there, big deal. It probably won't take long before one does open up, and I just hang out until someone leaves the parking spot and comes over to the fuel island or whatever, and finish waiting out my slack time. And I figure around 4:30 or so I'll leave the Flying J and make my way over to the receiver, which is Costco. I might even leave a little later than that because it's only a few miles away, a couple miles from there, and Costco has a strict don't check in any sooner than 15 minutes before your appointment time rule. So I don't want to end up going there and end up having to sit and wait. Something else you can do when you're trying to figure out what gear you should be in. Now, there are different rules of thumbs that people use. My opinion is whatever gear you can, whatever your gear you can manage going up in. So, like right now, I'm in 8th. I'm almost at the point where I need to use 7th to maintain my RPM where I want them, but 8th is actually holding me just barely enough. Now, whatever gear I'm using going up this grade, the same kind of grade, I can probably use the same gear going down. Now, yeah, that is more true in an auto shift truck than a manual truck, because as you saw, I did have to use my brakes coming down the grade, down the steep grades earlier here, and a good rule of thumb is if you have to use surface brakes at all to control your speed, you're probably in the wrong gear. So, for this reason, you'll hear more of the experienced drivers tell you usually you want to be at least one gear lower going down the hill than you would going up the same hill. And I can see why they'd say that, knowing, having the experience driving a manual transmission, like a lot of them. But auto shift's a different story though, and experience driving those tells me that usually whatever gear I can go up in is usually also the same gear I can handle going down in and not have to touch the brakes once. guy was just premature hitting his brights, or if he thought I had mine on, even though I didn't. Okay, so now I really am at a point where I'm dropping down into 7th gear, so using this same rule of thumb, then I should be, with this eating 10 speed, 7th gear I could probably handle this same grade going down. Now on icy roads, or more, or wet roads, whatever, now you really do want to be going slower. Slower and low RPMs. Something else to remember is if you're going up a grade, just remember up high, down low. So when you're going up a grade, you want to be at high RPM, and then also use your interaxle differential if you're on a wet or icy or wet or snowy or whatever road and you're going uphill. And then if you're going downhill, you want to be on low RPM and do not have your interaxle diff engaged. Basically, you want to have a lower gear, high RPM going up, and then a higher gear, low RPM going down. If you're on this is only really if you're on wet or icy roads, though, where there's a high risk of you hydroplaning or slipping in some way. On dry roads, yeah, I tend to run high RPMs on the way down because the Jake brakes are more effective at high RPM than they are low. And also, Jake brakes are more effective in lower gears than they are in higher gears. It's just like the way your gears work when you're accelerating. You accelerate a lot more rapidly in low gears than you will in high gears. But you can run at higher speed in high gears. So it's the same way with the Jake brakes. So the gearing, the longer the gear is, the weaker the Jake brakes are. So use those to your advantage. Give yourself an opportunity to not have to worry about overheating your brakes if you're coming down a hill. Right lane in, half mile ahead. It's always an indication that you're about to crest the hill. Another indication that you're about to crest the hill and about to come down the other side is the presence or lack of a brake check area. You saw there was one earlier. That was the first. Brake check areas are always at the top of a hill right before you start going down the other side. I'm doing 80. Try 53. Shit, I may be doing 80 kilometers or clicks, whatever, but sure it's only at 80 miles an hour. light show. I'll learn more about that later. Just north of the 220, or right around the 220 mile marker off I-17. About 20 or so miles north of Phoenix. We're actually in Phoenix city limits now, but about 20 miles north of downtown area. Now we've already passed Highway 303, or the out, well, I would also call it the outer loop. 101 will be coming up pretty soon here. Should be within about, I'd say about 15-20 miles of Tollleson at this point. Loop 101, 2.25 miles away. It'll be on the right side. You notice how where it said exit 214C above the top of the sign where it says Loop 101? See how that where it says exit number? Notice how that part of it was on the right side of the. You see, like right here, even where it's exit 217. It's on the right side of the. You know, it's basically offset to the right where of the sign that it's above. That gives you a good indication of which side of the highway you're going to exit to. So if it's on the right side of the sign, that means it's going to be a right side exit. If it's on the left side, it's going to be a left side exit. If you see it in the center, it's going to be just stay right in the middle. To work with for 101 west, it's 1 mile away. I'm going to just stay in the left one because I'm probably going to merge in with traffic coming from the other side. Yeah, there's a possibility we'll be merging from right to left, so it's more probable that the lane to my right is going to merge into mine, and then mine will merge into the main part of 101, possibly. At least that's how that's how you should normally consider these right side exits, where it's like a diamond style interchange, which is what we're going to be dealing with here right now. Now, diamond style interchange, what I mean by that is if you look at it from a top down view, like a satellite view, the interchange, the exits, and basically the on ramps and off ramps, they take the shape of a diamond. And then the other variety of off ramp or interchange that you're normally going to run into is called a cloverleaf style ramp. And those are where you take a loop, basically a 270-degree turn. Let's say if you're going to go from south to east, you would normally go left if you're at an intersection, but a cloverleaf style interchange, what you'll do is basically go past whatever the road is, and then you'll make a right exit, and then it loops around to put you on that road, on the correct side of it. It basically looks like a bunch of circles on if you look at it from a satellite view, it just looks like a four-leaf clover in a way. So that's why they call it a cloverleaf style interchange. Then you have others where it's a hybrid. Hybrid would be a combination of a diamond and a cloverleaf all in one. There are different varieties of that. Some good examples. Let's say what's this guy doing? Going in the shoulder for no good reason, it seems. Okay, I-84 in Idaho in Hayburn. There's your Love's Travel Center there. Right where US 30 and 84 meet up. About, I don't know, about 10 miles west of, I think it's about 10 miles west of where I-84 and I-86 meet up, if you want to look at it and find it on the map. Right where the Hayburn is there, getting off on Highway 30. That is an example of a hybrid style interchange where basically has a combination of a diamond and a cloverleaf together. And that particular type of setup, all of basically the ramps are all on the same side of Highway 30. So I think if I remember right, all the ramps are on the. Let's see. I'm trying to make sure I get my cardinal directions right with the way that 30 is oriented in that area there. Basically, 84 is kind of a east-west. 30 is generally an east-west highway also, but now that particular area, I'll just say it's going a little more north and south, or maybe northeast, southwest, something like that. Now, the ramps there at that interchange are all going to be on the east side of the highway. You won't have anything on the west side. Now, that could be. But you might have that kind of a hybrid interchange in areas where maybe they don't have the right-of-way to create a normal diamond or a cloverleaf style interchange. You know, where they use both sides of it. Maybe somebody owns property on the opposite side of the road and are unwilling to sell it to the government or to the state, whatever, so that it can be used for that purpose. And basically, when they have an alternative to use of eminent domain, they are usually compelled to avoid using eminent domain and explore other options before they resort to eminent domain to take land, not exactly take land, they actually buy it and by force in eminent domain situations. But my point here is that if there's a viable alternative where they can't get where they can't have access to the land, and maybe they I don't know why this guy is pointing. I do have maybe I have a bad tire, because I do have a light on, my air light. It came on about half an hour ago. Let's see if I pull off the road here and find out what he wants. Let's see, he's probably noticing something. Attention. There's probably a reason why my light came on.